gameranx presents 10 things you need to know about Mafia 3. A ton of new information has recently been revealed about the upcoming third entry in this amazing crime drama series, so let's not waste any time and get started with number 10, Lincoln Clay. Prior Mafia games have always been similar in that they have always predominantly featured the Italian mob, and thus, we've always had a white Italian main character. Well, in Mafia 3, that all changes. Players take control of Lincoln Clay, a biracial man who's part black and part something else. We actually don't really know yet. Perhaps it's setting up some surprising reveal in the game. Bottom line is, he's not your usual protagonist in a Mafia story, and that's kind of awesome. Clay used to be part of the Black Mob in New Bordeaux, which is the reimagined version of New Orleans that the game takes place in. After returning from war, he returns to find that his friends and fellow mobsters have been murdered by the Italian Mafia, sending him off on a path of revenge. Family has always been a big theme in the Mafia series, and with Clay, it's even more prevalent. For one, he's an orphan, so he lacks that traditional familial structure, which is one of the things that drives him to the mob in the first place, and one of the things that he takes back from the Vietnam War. The idea that family doesn't have anything to do with blood, as he says in the reveal trailer,
"Family isn't who you born with, it's who you die for."
Number 9, it's a real open world this time. One of the main things that always separated the Mafia games from the GTA games, despite them both being crime dramas that heavily deal with the mob, is that the Mafia games have always been very linear and had a very laser-focused narrative. Sure, the games always took place in a large city, but gameplay was always very constrained. This time around, Mafia 3 will be a legitimate open world where players will have a main objective, but also a variety of side missions that they can choose to tackle. The main difference here is that in Mafia 3, all the side things that you can do still give a sense of progression in the main story. You're not going to be heading to strip clubs, you're not going to a bar to play a game of darts. Everything you do is working towards taking down the Italian mob. So you'll be targeting various rackets around New Bordeaux, chipping away at their cash flow until eventually you're able to shut the racket down completely and claim it for your own. Which leads into number 8, the 3 lieutenants. In Mafia 3, there will be 3 lieutenants who will work under Lincoln and assist him in maintaining control of the areas that you take over while you're out doing the whole revenge thing. They are Burke, the leader of the Irish mob in New Bordeaux, Cassandra, the leader of the Haitian mob, and, yes, that's really him, Vito, the protagonist of Mafia 2. After you clear out a territory, you and your 3 lieutenants will gather around for what's known as a sit-down. Each of the 3 mob leaders will tell you why they think they deserve the territory and what they can do for you if you side with them. Burke typically offers the ability to call in armed backup. Vito will grant you access to better weaponry, and Cassandra offers some unique abilities that can assist you in a stealthy playthrough, like the ability to cut phone lines and prevent reinforcements from being called in. In a way, you can almost think of them as like living skill trees. The more you invest in one, the better rewards you get for that specific tree. Or you can spread your points around and be kind of good at a bunch of different things. The big question mark in this whole system is how lieutenants will react if you completely shut them out. It could be an interesting system if eventually it gets to a point where a lieutenant has had enough with being screwed over by you, and it leads to their faction going hostile towards you. This is one particular detail that the developers have been kind of vague about, but one thing is for sure. They'll definitely be upset with you if they feel like you're favoring the other lieutenants and ignoring them. Number 7, the story is framed as a documentary. Lincoln's story will be told in real time as the missions are going on, but in between big missions, the narrative will actually shift to the perspective of a character named John Donovan, who will be speaking in a courtroom telling Lincoln's story. These scenes will look like they've been taken off of a VHS tape and are apparently inspired by all the research that the dev team did for Mafia 3. Number 6, there are 9 districts in New Bordeaux. Mafia 3's open world is made up of 9 districts, with each district coming complete with their own set of missions, their own unique architecture, and a unique feel that separates them from the rest. So far, we've seen the French Ward and downtown at various preview events, but we also know that there will be a shipyard, a harbor, an industrial ward, and of course, the Bayou. According to Mafia 3 creative director Hayden Blackman, each of the districts in New Bordeaux will have their own criminal ecology, and certain districts will also have special side activities that you can do seemingly tied to the 3 lieutenants. One example was going down to the bayou for weed runs, where you would essentially go down to the bayou to pick up pot dropped by smugglers and deliver it back to Cassandra. It's been said that Burke will also have work for you that will take you all over the city. Number 5, racial tension. The 1960s were a very ugly time in the United States when it came to racial tension, and Mafia 3 won't be shying away from that reality with its biracial main character. Certain clubs that Clay walks into will be mixed race clubs, giving Clay no problem as long as he doesn't cause a scene, but that won't be the case everywhere, and Clay will have to deal with racial slurs and a racist police force. Only a very small handful of games really tackle racism head-on in a real-world setting, so it'll be interesting to see how Clay's story unfolds during a time period where the civil rights movement was at its peak. Number 4, Interrogations. Mafia 3 will feature an interrogation mechanic that will enable players to obtain key information out of specific important NPCs. One way that we've already seen this manifest is in the form of throwing a dude into your car and then driving like a madman to scare the crap out of them, to the point where they'll tell you whatever you want to know if you'll just stop driving like you're playing Crazy Taxi or something. At that point, you can either choose to spare them or shoot them in the face and kick them out of the car. Sparing them offers you the opportunity to have that person work for you, but killing them is just so much more satisfying. Number 3, the soundtrack. Having a kick-ass soundtrack is pretty much a requirement these days if you're planning on making a crime-centric open-world game, and fortunately, it seems like Hangar 13's got that aspect down. Specific tracks include House of the Rising Sun, because of course House of the Rising Sun is in a game set in a fictional New Orleans, along with Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones, and they're joined by artists such as Aretha Franklin, Lonnie Youngblood, Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Sam Cooke. Also, if we're going by songs used in the trailers, you can pretty safely expect some Jimi Hendrix in All Along the Watchtower, and Son of a Preacher Man from Dusty Springfield. Along with licensed songs, players can expect a score that heavily leans towards jazz to reflect the sound of the times. Number 2, the violence. Mafia 3 is a very violent game. Some may say gratuitously so, but you know what? This is a game about organized crime, a story that centers around revenge and a character who's a Vietnam War vet. And all of that shines through when you look at the ways in which Lincoln Clay dispatches his enemies. Lincoln can do all the usual tricks, such as a brutal stealth execution if he manages to sneak up on an enemy from behind, he has a melee combo that ends with a devastating finish, and executions that are specific to whatever weapon he's currently holding. And finally, number 1, a connection to Red Dead Redemption 2? So this is actually based on unconfirmed information, but it all looks fairly convincing and it's too interesting to ignore. A little while ago, Red Dead Redemption 2's map was leaked on the internet and made a big splash, especially since the game hasn't even been announced proper yet. But one of the interesting things about the leak was the fact that right here in the bottom right corner is a city called New Bordeaux. Red Dead and Mafia are owned by Take-Two Interactive, so the idea of there being some crossover between the two isn't far-fetched. That being said, there's a large time gap between the first Red Dead Redemption and Mafia 3, and the leak also revealed that Red Dead 2 would take place before the events of Red Dead 1. Will we see a direct crossover between Mafia 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2? Well, it's too early to say, but if I were a betting man, I would feel pretty good about saying that there will be at least an Easter egg or two connecting the two games. What are your thoughts on Mafia 3? You feeling the new setting? What do you think about Mafia 3 finally going full open world? We want to hear your thoughts, so let us know in the comments, and hey, if you enjoyed this video, do us a favor and hit that like button to help us out. And if you want to see more awesome gameranx videos on a daily basis, the best way to do that is to click subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've been your friendly neighborhood Spidey, and I'll see you next time.